If you have a toddler and you're like, okay, how am I going to do potty training with this sensitive child? How am I going to wean them off the binky? They're so attached to it. How do I do it in a gentle way, yet effective way? Then this is the podcast for you because I'm going to walk you through the principles on how to make these developmental transitions easy, smooth, gentle, yet effective. Hello, my name is Marcela Collier. I am the host of the Parenting with Understanding podcast. And I'm so excited to bring you this topic because I get so many questions about it. I have an autistic child. How do I potty train them? I have a high sensitive child. How do I get them off the binky without a big struggle? So I'm going to give you three things that you need to consider to make these developmental transitions a lot smoother. But before I go there, if you've been listening to the Parenting with Understanding podcast, if you've been enjoying it, if it has given you insights, inspiration, and transformation, would you leave a positive review? Just open the podcast description, give us a positive review. I love 5-star reviews. That will help us get to more parents. Let us know how this podcast episode has helped you so far in raising emotionally healthy children. Okay, so Binky and potty training. They are common developmental transitions that children go through. But when it comes to sensitive kids or neurodivergent kids, there are things that we need to consider because it might not be as smooth as our older child who is neurotypical and he's pretty strong-willed or he's pretty chill and then things were easy. Let's talk about these three things. Number one, I want to define to you what a developmental transition is. A developmental transition is a transition. Yeah, I want to say it. I want to repeat it. It's a transition. It's not a disruption. It's a transition that children go through just because they are growing. Because they're growing, it comes to a time that, okay, it's time to potty train you. Or their teeth are growing or they're crooked. It's time to get rid of the binky. So those are developmental transitions that happen because of development. And I want to focus on these two today. What's important when it comes to starting these developmental transitions of potty training and getting rid of the binky? It is to understand or to be very sure about your child's cues for physical readiness and your child and your cues for emotional readiness. Why you as well? Because if you are not emotionally ready to do this transition, then it's not going to go smooth. I'm going to tell you because it happened to me. Miguel, my neurotypical one, by the way, he was the one who was so attached to his binky. For a while, I tried to get him off of it. When he was a little toddler. Now he's almost 9 years old, and I wasn't successful because Daddy kept giving him the binky when every time he had a big meltdown, and it was kind of like Dad's way of calming him down fast. So we were going to Colombia, me with the twins alone, without Brian, my husband. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to go through these developmental transitions. So when we come back to Phoenix, he's fully off the binky and Brian doesn't have to worry about it. I told Brian I was going to do that. He was kind of reluctant, even though he knew it was time. His teeth were growing crooked. It was time. We wanted him to be off the binky because if not, it could affect not just his teeth, but his language. Yeah, his language. So he said, okay. He kind of gave in and said, okay, you do it. Well, I went through this transition with him. I'm going to tell you in a little bit how I did it. And then when we came back to Phoenix, he was fully off the binky. He was not asking for it anymore. Well, Daddy picked us up from the airport, and guess what he had in his hand? Even though he knew he was already out the binky. Yeah, he has not just one, but two binkies on each hand. And Miguel went back to his binky for months. So, yes, both parents have to be on board on we are doing this. And if you have more than one caregiver besides you, maybe if your mom, if your child is in grandma's place every day while you work and you want to do this transition, everybody needs to get on board. Because if you do a lot of work on your end and then your child goes the next day to grandma's house for the afternoon and they have hidden binkies there, then it's just going to drag a lot longer. And not just that, it's going to get confusing for your kid. Kind of like, I don't understand. I can have the binky, but I cannot have it, but I can have it, but I cannot have it. So it just adds fuel to the fire. Emotional readiness, it's important. Okay, so let's talk about how I did these transitions. And by the way, emotional readiness goes for party training as well. Yes. And sometimes emotional readiness has a lot to do with what's happening in our lives. I was having a consultation with one of our coaching clients, and then she was telling me about her desire of potty training while she was trying to do another developmental transition, which was taking her son from co-sleeping to sleeping in own bed. Well, first things first. Overlapping developmental transitions are hard regardless, and overlapping them just makes them harder. So don't overlap as much as you can. Developmental transitions go one at a time, or developmental transitions with live transitions. Example: we are moving out of our house. That might not be the best timing to do potty training, even if your child is physically ready. Just wait until you settle in your new house, until the new normal is the old normal, and then start the potty training process. Why? Because there is a level of stress that children go through when they are getting rid of the binky or the diaper. And if there is an added stress, it could lead to more accidents, more regressions, and just things to get a lot stickier in terms of the behaviors. Okay, so now that we know, okay, the transition is kind of like the good timing. We're not having a big move in our family. They're already sleeping in their own bed. Everything is kind of like the way is cleared. We can start developmental transition. Then let's talk about this, because potty training and getting rid of the binky or any other developmental transition is basically teaching our children a very specific skill to be able to live without that thing, to be able to live without diapers, to be able to live without the binky, to be able to live without co-sleeping or whatever developmental transition you're doing. So it is not about them not having the diapers anymore. Is what is the skill that I'm teaching my child so they are successful. They are successful reading their body and understanding, hey, I need to go. So let me walk you through these skills. Skill of potty training is reading body cues. And I want to stay there because if you have a sensitive child, possibly you might be inclined to add an extra push, an extra incentive, the sticker or the lollipop of the little reward that you get once you use the toilet, once you go in the toilet. But this is something that's giving is giving a child a sticker, really teaching that child how to read their body cues. Let's just do a little exercise. Let's just pretend that I have $100 bill in my hand and I tell you, hey, Cindy, hey, Kelly, hey, Diana, hey, Chelsea, I'm going to give you this $100 bill if you can go pee right now. If you can go number one right now, even if it's a little squeeze out, if you squeeze something out, you get the $100 bill. Raise your hand. I mean, if your hands are on the steering wheel, don't raise them, but raise your hand if you will be able to go right now to get the $100 bill. Exactly. That's what a sticker does. You're not really learning to read your body because even if you don't really want to go, you can make yourself go for the $100 bill. So that doesn't teach any skill. And the sticker goes away and the regression comes. And then you're like, oh, I'm in a potty training regression. Okay, what happened with the sticker? Did it go away? Because they were doing it they were not listening to their bodies. When it comes to potty training, we are teaching them to read their bodies. One of our coaches in HIC Parenting, one of her coaching sessions, that she said something that really, like, I love what she said. She said, right now I'm in the potty training process with my daughter. And every time, like throughout the day, I touch her little belly, like where the bladder is. And I kind of squeeze it and I say, hey, does it feel full? That means you need to go. Go. Hey, how does it feel now? Does it feel empty? Okay, that means you don't need to go. And then touch your belly there. You touch it. Okay, does it feel good, full? That means you need to go. Does it feel empty? Okay, you don't need to go. That's training our children to recognize their body cues. And it's not just about it, but teaching them the process. What's the SOP, the standard procedure for going to the bathroom? It's common practice and knowledge for us, common sense, but not for kids. They don't know the process is you go, you put your pants down, you sit, you go number one or number two. Okay, you wipe, you flush, and you wash your hands. And they might miss steps. They might go, poop in their pants, and come out. And it's not because body training is not working. No, it's part of the learning process, right? Every time that you're learning a new skill, whether it's cooking or sewing, or remember the last skill that you learned, you miss steps. Even if somebody told you, you miss steps as you were training your body and your brain to operate in a certain sequence steps. So it is normal that they miss steps, that sometimes they go to the bathroom but they don't go in the toilet. Or like my sons, many times they went to the bathroom, they pooped in the toilet. They went number two, but then number one was all over the floor. That's part of the process. It's not something that you discipline. It's not something that you redirect for, meaning like you nothing to yell to your kids about. No, it's part of the process. The same thing with the Binky. What's the skill? Remember that developmental transitions come with a skill. It's the skill of knowing how to regulate my emotions with the help of something else that's not the Binky. Because if your child is old enough that you know is affecting their language and their teeth, they're out of their oral stage. So they're not sucking on the Binky because it's a reflex. They're doing it for comfort. So it is teaching them how to find comfort in a preferred blanket, in you, in a, I don't know, in a bunny, in their pet, like with their pets, teddy bears. That's the skill of emotional regulation, co-regulation with a different thing. And it comes with the same process. When I did the transition with my son in Colombia, I took a preferred teddy bear. It wasn't a teddy bear, it was like a Bambi, the little Bambi, the little deer. He loved that Bambi. And then I started like on and off, on and off. For naps, okay, you can have the Binky, but for bedtime, let's use the Bambi. And sometimes it was a meltdown because he wanted the Binky and not Bambi. And some other times it was not a meltdown until I trained him to rely on me and on his Bambi because the Binky was off limits. It was just for naps. And then after that, I transitioned him out even for naps. And the last thing that I want to say is once your child is learning that transition, okay, so what's the process? And I'm going to go against a lot of programs who sell you the 3-day potty training. After 3 days, your child is going to be fully potty trained. He's going to be able to go to kindergarten and have no accidents. Ay, ay, ay. I'm here shaking my head because how long does a child take to learn a skill? It depends on each child. I have twins and they got potty trained at different times. I started at the same time because they were both ready at the same time. But one of them got potty trained in maybe 2 weeks, and the other one took months to be fully potty trained, meaning like not even needing in the evening. It took him a long time. So the 3-day potty training thing, I think they might just be selling programs to parents that sound like, oh, 3 days. Yes, I want to miss the hustle. And possibly they're using that as a marketing strategy, but it will take what it will take. It will take what it will take. It will take what it will take. So let's go back because it will take what it will take. And sometimes you see that they got it and then they regress. It's part of it. It's part of it. When I was in the get rid of the Binky transition, I remember having 3 very successful nights, and night 4 was like, oh, I remember I had a Binky. I'm going to cry over this Binky for the next 40 minutes. And it was like that. Did he stay like that? No. He's almost 9 years old. He's not asking for his Binky. And that's one thing that I want to tell you. A lot of the times while we are in these developmental transitions, we tend to enter into this catastrophic thinking of, we're not making any progress, my child is autistic, or my child is so sensitive, and then you think that they're going to be on diapers, whatever. Your child won't get to college on diapers for the most part. Some do, but for the most part, no. So take a deep breath. You're doing amazing, you're doing great, and your child is doing great because they are learning a new skill. And that takes practice, that takes patience, and that takes you as a secure parent to transfer that confidence and that calmness and peace to your child. If what you're transferring is anxiety, it's rushed energy, it's why are we back at this again, at having accidents again? If we already passed that, then the transition is going to drag a lot longer. The key, the secret sauce to raise an emotionally healthy, sensitive, and neurodivergent child is for you to become a secure parent, for you to be that strong, grounded adult. And if you are like, Marcela, I need help with that. Well, I have an invitation for you. I have a free class that you can access on my website, hicparenting.com. It's in the description below. If you open the description of this podcast episode, or it's in the description box if you're watching it on YouTube. And on this class, I'm going to teach you the system that worked for me and for 14,151 of our clients in HIC Parenting to break free from reactivity, from anxiety, from angry reactions, bring peace to your parenting, and start raising emotionally healthy children, especially if they are sensitive and neurodivergent. Again, you can find it in hicparenting.com or open the description of the podcast episode, and the link is there. If you are watching us from YouTube, I have a question for you. What developmental transition are you going through? Is it the Binky? Is it co-sleeping? Is it potty training? Let me know in the comments. And I want to tell you something. It only takes understanding of yourself and of your children's needs to transform your parenting. That's Parenting with Understanding. I'll see you next time. Bye.